Welcome, everyone, to 40K Fanatics Podcast, a podcast about having fun with your little plastic toys and various things having to do with them. Austin?
Yes.
That's Austin, I'm Shane, and it's another episode of 40K Fanatics Podcast, and this week, I'm going to get right into a little bit of something because we're going to title this, What the Heck is Warhammer 40,000? So, that should attract some new people who have heard about this thing as it is blowing up bigger than it's ever been. I think that can be said wholeheartedly. And they may not know what the heck it is. So that's what we're going to do today. And a lot of our listeners don't leave just yet. A lot of our listeners are old hats. They're veterans of 40K. They know all about it. And so I have a job for you all. Down in the comments of the YouTube or the Spotify where you may listen to us, be sure to rate, subscribe, review, etc. I want you veterans to help the new people to explain how you got in the hobby and things of that nature, the ways that you participate in it, because that's the kind of stuff we're going to talk about. If you got in through video games, talk about those. If you got in through buying a codex, talk about that. That kind of thing. I believe we have cultivated a fairly positive group of people who might be good shepherds to the newbies that are trying to get into it or have no idea what it even is. And perhaps there is the outside chance that you learn something. So, everybody's got a job, and we're going to do it. But we have a whole show for you as usual. And we usually start off the show with opening the Vox channel. Now, we record these episodes like a day after this week's YouTube pod drops. You get the Spotify and all the podcast apps on Friday. You get the YouTube, I believe, on Monday. Is that right?
That is correct.
Monday morning. Last week's pod about the 40K lawsuit is blowing up because I guess YouTube just likes when there's controversy. That I find frustrating. But there are a ton of comments and the views are coming in, which is all great. We're all happy about that. Next week, we'll read some of those. This week, though, we're going to go back, which we typically do. And I'm going to read some comments in the Vox channel from our 11th edition wish list pod, which was quite fun to do. And Paradukes, frequent contributor to the pod, knows how to get his comment read. And he writes 4 paragraphs. And I'm going to read them because it's just good stuff. If you want your comment read, you can leave it on Spotify or on YouTube. Those are the places that we will get them to you. And you can get at us on our Discord. It's totally free to join. Link below. Paradukes says, I mean, the overriding number one wish for 11th edition is that whatever rules they settle on, they playtest the hell out of them first. There's a lot of things I might want in the next edition, but I'm not a game designer and don't necessarily know what would be fun to play. That said, I definitely agree with the idea for advanced rules, especially if they're modular and can be used as people like. Quote, let's use vehicle facings for this game, but not scatter dice, for example. Which, I will always use scatter dice. They're very silly. He continues, I definitely disagree with your view on uploading rules for free. I do think that codexes should still exist and can be a repository for a faction lore and pictures, but that the rules shouldn't be paywalled and should be available through the app sans flavor text. The current expectation that I need to buy a 30-pound he lives in the UK, a 30-pound book just for the privilege of adding an assassin to my list, and then another 30-pound for to add an armiger or knight is just baffling. And while microtransactions could mitigate it, I think that would be going the wrong way. All they would do is discourage people from using the official app, driving them toward free alternatives. He continues, one more. I don't believe for a second that free rules would disincentivize them from making updates. Firstly, people would still buy the codex for lore and collection purposes to justify making new editions. Secondly, there's probably an enormous majority who don't buy codexes anyway. And thirdly, the updates are exactly how they make more money by changing the meta. All of the tournament players run out and buy whatever the hot new model is when it comes out by Uh, well, when it comes down by 20 points. If anything, it would end up bringing in more customers if they don't have the outlay for rules in the first place. And, as Paraduke said there, he disagrees with me mainly on my idea for a microtransaction based app based rule set. I pitched the idea where I want to be able to buy sort of a digital version for, say, $10 so that if I need a Chaos Knights codex to go with my Chaos Space Marines codex because I want to add a knight, then, I'm only out $10 on the app. I miss out on all the pictures and the lore in the book, but that's not the end of the world, being that I'm not going to run an entire knight's army. Um, so, new listeners, who I hope you are many, get in the comments. We will read the things that you disagree with us on, too. So, we're kind of equal opportunity here in that way. I've got one more to read. This one comes from Spotify, where you can also leave your comment. And if you are if you are someone who is at odds of which podcast app to choose, I recommend Spotify because we have a theory here at 40K Fanatics to put all our eggs in one basket so that we will rise to the top of all the rankings and conquer the singular system that is Spotify and ride that into uh, into new worlds and riches beyond our wildest imaginings. So far, we've made $0. Dave and Company, also frequent contributor to the pod, says, "Oh, that one's on the lawsuit. I'm sorry. Let me pull up Dave and Company, frequent contributor, on the 11th edition wish list. I hope you are right that it's more like 10.5 rather than a whole new edition. I have several armies, my fault I know, that I really don't want to buy yet another round of books every 3 years, parenthetical. I'd like a digital package, cheaper, etc., but I know GW won't do that. I appreciate how 8th and now 10th streamlined the rules, yet rules bloat always rears its ugly head. LOL, advanced rules might take care of that, though I seem to think they did that in like 4th or 5th edition."
I'm not aware.
Yeah, that's before my
That's
time.
before
I
my
came in.
time.
I came
Yeah.
in on ninth, and the rules bloat was in full effect, which we're going to talk a little bit about when we get to our main topic. But stick around, people. Maybe we'll put some. I noticed you put some timestamps of the various chunks of the pod in last time. You must have had a couple of minutes to yourself.
Oh, I try to do that every time just to help people out. If they want to get to the main topic, if they don't want to hear us rant on and on about what we've done, just give them some nudging so they can get to what they love, be anything we talk about.
Well, as this is kind of a different episode where we're speaking to people who don't really know the game, don't know the community, are coming to it as what is this thing people are talking about? Why is it so expensive looking? You have to build it? Um, Perhaps they will listen to our next segment and get a little feel for what it's like, deep in the cockles of the miniature wargaming hobby. And we're going to open the bits box. Open it up. Oh, that's a new hinge sound. I don't know if that one was better or worse, but it was aggressive. Got to put some
I've been
oil on it.
trying.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Um, the Bits Box is a part of the pod where we talk about what we have done in the miniature hobby this week. Now, new thing over on our Discord, which did I mention it's free? You can just join the Discord. If you act an ass in there, we will kick you out. So far, nobody's been kicked out. But we're going to move all our Bitsbox content. We're posting more often to the Bitsbox section of the Discord, and that is not just for us. That is also for you guys. We want you to get in, tell us what you think of our stuff, and put your stuff in there so we can comment back and forth and have like a little gassing up session with one another. You know, do you like it?
Hmm.
Do you not like it? Critique if you wish. Some people may not want to hear that. They'll let you know, I'm sure. But the Bits box is the place that you can see what we're talking about with regard to painting and hobbying. There's also a game section, which we're going to talk about. But my first thing in the Bits box is I spent hours last night. I had a little toothy ache. It hurt real bad. I took a nap, a little ibuprofen, fixed it up a dream. Then I got in on my dragon for Old World, my high elf prince on dragon, And I had previously
Hmm.
posted a picture of it where I had painted all his scales bright orange. He was otherwise black, and I had airbrushed a fleshy color in his wing webbing, right? And it looked terrible. So terrible. But I knew I had to trust the process because the plan was to make a black dragon with like orange under his scales, right?
Yeah.
And I think I've pulled it off. The thing that brought it all together, as it very often does, I did some dry brushing of black because you can't just. I mean, I'm not going to just go and paint every single scale. Brushing of black, dry brushing of gray. Then I took and got my airbrush out, and I got a brown ink, a burnt umber ink, and I sprayed the transitions from the black to the fleshy colors because his soft underbelly was fleshy as well, and tinted it. I tinted all around those transitions to a brown, so it's very smooth into the fleshy color. And man, did that bring it together.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Then it was just fun stuff, painting straps, painting armor plates, and all kinds of things. And he's slowly turning into what he's supposed to be and looking a lot less splotchy. Because at first it looked real splotchy, bro. It
Hmm.
was bad. I was like, I am going to
Yeah.
have to start over. New idea. This ain't it. But I think it is.
Yeah, you trusted the process.
Got to trust the process sometimes. We've done a few painting pods about that. Um, what'd you do this week in the miniature war gaming hobby?
Well, I've sent you photos of the progress I was making on the bolt thrower, getting that painted up. Really, I'm going to have to shout out Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy, Oblivion Black Wash. It is like I have seen the Nolan Oil Messiah return because this stuff is pretty much the Nolan Oil that I've been looking for a long time. Because Games Workshop has recently reformulated their shades and washes, and they just don't act the same, and they don't create the same effect they used to. But this wash by Duncan Rhodes really darkens the model in a perfect way for you to do later highlights if you even want to. I mean, sometimes the classic Nordal effect is good on its own if you just want to get something quick done. Uh, I am tickled to have this now that I can use, and it is just amazing. I've been looking for something like this for a long time, but I got the bolt thrower. Been working on that. Hopefully, I can get the goblin crew painted soon on that. I got interrupted last time, but you and me did play Old World finally.
This is the thing. This is the thing. Yeah, that Nolan Oil reformulation was also before my time because I mean it's been years now. I tell you though, I mean I've gone all anti-wash myself. I'm trying to use as little as possible all the time, but that's me. Uh, Plenty of different ways to skin the proverbial miniature wargaming cat. We did play the old world. Man, we,
Uh,
we, we bum rushed the friendly local game store. We got in the midst of people playing all kinds of different things. There were multiple 40K games going on, very sweaty 40K games. There was a Necromunda game next to us, and we set up your custom terrain, which is very old school rank and flank historical war game type terrain, and we got our dudes all ranked up out there. And then I proceeded to roll dice like an idiot, but man was it fun.
yeah, it was kind of unfortunate watching the elves kind of roll. They were good rolls if this was not the Old World.
Yes,
If
yes,
this was 40K, they'd be very good rolls.
that's right. That's right. My elves, who are supposed to be very, very brave, could not pass a leadership test. They could not hit and wound with any of their weapons, and they could not get their feet out of the bog to step to a charge. And so you just sort of slowly approached me, doing your best not to just wipe me off the board because it was that level of dice incompetence on display. And there were some moments where we sort of slapped back here and there, uh,
Yeah.
but the game was never in doubt for you.
No, and I felt bad it being your first game and it going like that.
the thing that was crazy about it was not like I made a bunch of bad plays. It was
No.
I need about a 6-inch charge. Well, I've rolled four, which is a one and a three, so your guys move like 3 inches. I did my guys on potential charges did a whole lot of stepping forward 2 or 3 inches and just
Mm,
standing there looking stupid. Then they started running away. That was a bad deal. You hate to see that.
yeah.
Um, but I can't wait to play again because I mean I could see how it all works.
We need to get another game going.
Yeah, and you guys can see pictures of our projects and our game over on the Discord. Let's close that bits box and get into what we're talking about this week.
Closing it. Hmm.
Right at the 16-minute mark, sir, for your future notes. So, what the heck is Warhammer 40,000? What is 40K? What is it? I've got 3 points that we're going to discuss because to say it's a game would be to ignore a not insignificant portion of this thing. I suppose what you could say is Warhammer 40,000 is a setting, such as the Old West, the Napoleonic era, World War II, right?
Sure.
You've got all types of media and games, movies, stories that have to do with those settings. Warhammer 40,000 and Warhammer at large, because, you know, go watch our Does the Warp Connect the Old World and 40K um, pod, but it's it's like somebody made one of those real historical settings from scratch. So what is Warhammer 40,000? It's a game, it's books, it's a hobby, which is like building model train sets. Okay, I'm trying to put this into terms that people that have never heard of this stuff might understand. It's like building a model car. It's video games. It's soon to be TV and movies. It's a ton of
Yeah.
YouTube. It's painting. That kind of goes with the hobby part. So it's a painting project. Um, let's talk about it from the game because that is really what makes the whole thing tick. The books have expanded the setting, this world, you know, think about it. Everything you know about old-timey detectives are based off of reality of the time period, right?
Hmm.
And the books of 40K have created a reality of a future dystopian time period that is so fully realized that it all sort of fits no matter what you're looking at. But
Yeah.
the game is about pushing little plastic and sometimes metal individual army men. So imagine your toy soldiers, plastic army men, pushing those around the table with some, um, frankly, needlessly complicated rules governing their movement, their abilities, how they how they have a dust up between one another, and all wrapped in this very dense, very well realized um, aesthetic of an unending conflict across the universe in the 41st millennium. I think that's a pretty good synopsis.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. My
Look at
next.
you.
Yeah, look at me. My next point, because all that probably sounds great, you might say, as the uninitiated listener, and I'm glad you're here. Um, how do you do that? How do you do it? Is the next question, and I have an answer in my notes, and it says however you want. So what we're talking about here is two things, and we'll break this into two things. One, how does one interface with this hobby? because it is often referred to as a hobby, whether you're into the books, whether you're into the painting, whether you're into playing the games. Okay, we call it the hobby. And also, guys, again, new listeners, the uninitiated, the hobby also includes things like Civil War reenactment games that you play on your tabletop. If you play it with a miniature version of something representing something, it's part of the hobby as we refer to it. So, just like we talked about Old World in the Bits box, that is also a Warhammer game in a potentially different universe. It's the same kind of thing when you hear people talk about the hobby. If you came here by way of Trench Crusade, for instance, because it's the new hotness, it's part of the same hobby, miniature wargaming. Now, how do you do it? Let's get in the nuts and bolts of that. Because I say however you want. What are some ways that you could interface with the hobby, Austin? Because you participate in a number of them.
Uh, so interfacing with Warhammer, I mean, you could do the like we were saying the models. You could play the games.
Now,
There's
you started with a
books.
game, didn't you? You
I
started with
started
a
with
video game.
I started my introduction to Warhammer as a whole, just like any bit of Games Workshop medium, was Total War Warhammer back in 2016 when I was putting together my first computer for college, and I got the game for free with my graphics card. Let me tell you, that's like giving crack to an unsuspecting person trying to buy something else in an alleyway.
You got dosed. You were just trying to get like some. You were literally trying to buy candy, and they hit you with that fentanyl.
Yeah, and so that sent me down a very expensive rabbit hole with this hobby, delving into many Games Workshop games, and I just fell in love with the universe.
Yeah, it's easy to do, right? Because again, um, we had a we what one of the founders of 40K Fanatics podcast is, well, I mean, the founder. He started the thing. He brought me on, and then now he's moved on to other things, and you're here. But the homie Casey, he loves to read the books, and he paints and plays. But I mean, he probably listens to an audiobook every couple of weeks or reads one. And
Yeah,
you get so steeped in the lore of this thing, in the stories, in the sort of individual dramas that take place in that type of media. Again, that's in the setting in the same way that you could read a book about, frontiersmen trying to protect the homestead from the bad guys, right?
yeah, or not even looking at kind of like that genre fiction. I mean, if you can look at it as things like the Star Wars expanded universe novels. 40K and Warhammer largely has a similar thing going on where they have the Black Library and they're publishing their own materials inside this universe. Shane was saying all these stories that kind of help make the universe alive in your imagination as you read.
That's right.
And I've read several of these books and they are usually very excellent.
Yeah. And then you've got the books that have to do with the game directly. So the game, let's talk about that because that is the big part. Um I said at the front of the pod that at 40K Fanatics podcast, we try not to just hate on stuff constantly. That's a very popular thing. The other thing that's very popular in this hobby is to talk about what's good. What has good
Yeah,
rules, what is powerful, how to win. And that I find to be exhausting because the nature of this thing that we do, this hobby, from a holistic standpoint, if you have interest in really interfacing with it, participating in it with, let's call it some gusto in a few different chunks, right? So, myself, I'm just going to go back to my list. Game, check. Hobby, double check because the building and the painting are big for me. Video games, check. So that's three, maybe call it four things that I really like to do in nearly equal parts with it. Now, if all I cared about was the game and winning games, then the hobby part that you kind of still have to do becomes a bit of a chore. And you get a lot of discourse about what's good, what you have to get, what you can no longer use because it's no good, and that kind of thing I find to be discouraging because that hobby part, the painting, the building, takes time and should take time, and that should be enjoyable time. And I don't think that, if you're coming to us now as your fourth or fifth uh, dip into figuring out what this is, perhaps nobody has talked about this, but chasing the meta, chasing the being good at the game, and things of that nature can be a uh, less than rewarding pursuit than it first seems because you just end up spending all your time hurrying through the rest of this stuff to get to that.
Mhm.
But let's be now a little more pragmatic about the game. How the heck does one Warhammer 40k the game? Where do you start?
Well, a good place to start with the game are the starter sets, and each
Yes.
edition gets one.
Yes, each edition gets a starter set. Also, they've got these combat patrol boxes, which are a little piece of an army. It's not everything you need, but if you and a buddy buy one each, you could you could go to bat with that. They've got an app. The app's free. It's got the rules. It will be chunky to get through like that, but you can do it that way. Um, Here's another thing, okay? If you want to get into the game, you can go to your friendly local game store and ask some people. Some of these people are going to start talking immediately about what's good and how to win. Listen to them if you feel like it. Some other people will be willing to give you a demo game where they'll say, hey, why don't you come up here Friday and I'll bring a few models of two different factions and you can use these guys or those guys and I'll show you how it works. That's a really good way to get into it.
Yeah.
If you and a buddy want to do this all by your lonesome in your man cave, setting this up on your pool table, you can do it that way too. And here's how I did it this way myself, and this is crazy. But you buy the core rule book. Now, there's an online FAQ that has a ton of changes to that core rule book. However, if it's just you and another uninitiated person trying to figure out how the game works, you can absolutely crack that puppy open, take the models of your choosing, off the shelf that you buy at the same spot that you get the book, build those, paint those. You have to have a what's called a codex that is associated with the models, the faction that you choose. So on the box of models, it'll say Space Marines. And so you need the book that says Space Marines. And with just those three things, you can figure out how to play. You can expand your collection box by box, growing your little army in whatever direction you feel like. And you can play.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this, it doesn't have to be an online thing. And hot take, I don't think it should because everything we do is always online. You're online right now listening to us talk about this. The amount of information, the amount of opinions that one can receive about anything is endless. There are literally bot farms with AIs commenting on things to just keep a conversation going that was potentially written initially and posted by a bot. All right?
Mhm.
We have gotten we've gotten very far away from two people bent over a book trying to figure out what the heck you're supposed to do next. And when we ask the question, when you try to figure out what is a Warhammer 40K, it's a bit of that. It's something, tangible, or I think it should be. the most
Yeah.
fun may be had that way. Because otherwise, if you're just going online and finding what army list won the last big tournament, and you're thinking, well, I'll just get that so that I can win all the time. One, the rules will have changed likely before you amass that force, and they will no longer be as potent as they were at the time of your reference. Number two, at that point, you're kind of just playing another video game. And video games, whether they be Warhammer 40,000 video games or any other kind, are very good. An argument could be made that Marvel Rivals is a better game than Warhammer 40,000. But they could not be more
Heresy.
different. And different is good. Video games as a business generate more revenue than all of movies and entertainment. We got plenty of video games. Everybody plays them. I have no doubt that every single listener of ours does play or has played some video games.
Hmm.
We've all been there. We've all done it. The appeal of these things, of 40K, of miniature wargaming at all, is that it's something that you actually do with a person near you.
Yeah, it's a real big appeal because a
Because we have
lot of the
so much of
times,
the other.
yeah, we have too much because a lot of the times people are kind of isolated today with their cell phones and everything, social media, and it's nice to be able to meet up with someone face to face and play out a game and just enjoy the company of others instead of being holed up, say at a gamer desk covered in your gamer gunk and stuff. Uh, in your dim darkness, it's better to come out into the light and go to your local game store and have some fun.
There's also some tactile uh, part of this too, which is you're buying these. Yeah. Oh, and if it hasn't been made clear, we're talking about plastic model kits, guys. So you have to put them together. You've got to cut them out off of their sprue or what other thing? Frame. Sometimes you hear it called a frame, okay? Everybody's seen that picture online. I think it's an AI thing of the Jeep that's on a frame, and it's like all the parts of this Jeep are just on a flat frame. Anyhow, and then you got to cut them out and put it together, and you have a Jeep, just like a model car. So, but there's something too that you buy this thing, and it is expensive, but not. It's not. I always say it's not as expensive as boats and motorcycles. And I know plenty of people that do boats and motorcycles, okay? You can have so much Warhammer 40,000 for the price of one boat or motorcycle. All right? Now, if you're someone who already has boats and motorcycles, then you don't give a darn about spending more money on anything. Come on. Be reasonable. We know who you are. You like this stuff. Um,
Yeah.
but there's something nice about how you spend your money and you get your thing and then you build your thing and you paint your thing so that they look like they do on the box or whatever you want. And now you've got a physical thing. And GW may update the rules to say, hey, you can't use that physical thing anymore in an official tournament because it's been out for a decade. And yada, yada, yada. Again, in the scenario of you and your homie playing this stuff on the pool table, that crap doesn't matter. So
Mhm.
all of that stuff that you see on, people constantly moaning on the internet about, oh, they got rid of whatever. They didn't get rid of anything. You still have it. The rules are likely in a printed book that you own. Those don't go bad. I was just
Mhm.
thinking about this today. Uh, Me and the wife have not played Star Wars Shatterpoint in quite some months, and we've been meaning to get back and play it. And I haven't looked to see if there's been any rules updates. And guess what? We're going to play with the rule
What?
book we got. And I bet we have fun. Anyway,
Hmm.
the next thing I've got, last point that we'll discuss. If you are brand new and you put into the YouTube search, what is Warhammer 40K. You will see so much about lore. 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 And I pitch this to you as the final point. Um, what the heck is lore? Because that does not sound like something a normie just throws around in their day to day.
So lore is kind of the glue that holds a lot of this stuff together. It's basically, uh, if you ever sat down with like a history book or anything of the world, it's similar to that. It's the history, the nuts and bolts, how this world functions, and what's going on inside this world. It is uh, backgrounds of characters, backgrounds of factions, timelines, just the overall, uh, just it's a thing to get your head around what's going on in this world and how to frame your mind around kind of like playing the game. Like your little guys, you're now, if you look at the lore, now you know what they are, what they're doing, and this can influence you in how you play them in the game. Once you know, oh, these guys are actually genetically modified super soldiers. That's neat.
Yeah. So, lore is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as a body of traditions and knowledge on a subject or held by a particular group, typically passed from person to person by word of mouth. Now, that's the definition of lore. Basically, what we're saying is the lore is the setting. The setting that I talked about at the beginning, that all of this stuff is covered in and exists in, is the lore. But everybody always talks about the lore constantly, and you see um, whole podcasts and YouTube channels dedicated to just explaining the lore. And the lore is cool, but I could see how somebody who doesn't even know what the heck this thing is like, what the heck is lore and why is everybody constantly talking about it? Um Let me try to give you guys some maybe more maybe more prescient examples of lore. Everybody I think knows Spider-Man. Okay? The lore of Spider Man, here's an example, is that he was bit by a radioactive spider, and that gave him his spider powers. The other and very important part of Spider Man lore, the sort of stuff you have to understand what the heck this thing is with great power comes great responsibility, which is what his dead Uncle Ben told him. So that he didn't take his super strength and spider powers and go take over the world.
Yeah.
That's the lore of Spider Man. The lore of Batman is his parents got shot in an alley and he lost his damn mind. Kind of stuff you need to
Mm-hmm.
know to get involved in, let's call it the finer points of the character. And 40K has got so many characters and so many factions and so much going on, and it is at such a grand scale with this intergalactic and interdimensional battle that is ceaseless. It is a dystopia where there is only war, which is nice, not because that's a good thing, but because at the end of the road, it all is in service of a game where factions fight each other. It
It's a
would
fertile, it's very fertile ground to plant your armies in.
Well, here's the thing. If Warhammer 40,000 was a game about resource management, like Settlers of Catan, then then the everlasting warfare would not make a lot of sense for the setting, would it?
No.
It would just be this thing on the side that periodically would mess up your whole resource management game. That wouldn't make a lot of sense. But no,
Hmm.
this is about, like you said, genetically modified super soldiers shooting at each other. Therefore, the setting, the lore, is about how This thing kicked off long ago, and it shows no signs of stopping.
Yeah.
Um,
Only going to end with everyone dead.
that's right. That's the only way it can end. And as long as you and me and everybody listening keeps buying models, we'll still have little plastic dudes on the table to get killed over and over. And therefore, it continues. The long war, they call it. Um, so have we missed anything? Do you think this has been a helpful resource for people that don't know what the heck a Warhammer 40,000 is?
I think it's been pretty good.
I think so. I feel we've spoken in very broad strokes. I want people, shout out Paradukes, Dave and company, you guys, get down in the comments and briefly describe how you got into 40K. Who got you into it? How you got your head around the various ways that you now interface with the hobby, so that our listeners might follow your lead and figure it out themselves. I think self discovery is one of the strongest teachers of anything. And
Huh?
so the sooner you just get the rule book and a codex, because you get a lot of lore in the rule book, you get a lot of lore in your codex about your faction, right? So all of this world that seems so broad and esoteric right now becomes much more grounded as you read this stuff, especially the way the rule book explains the setting and the history and how we got to the present time of the 41st millennium. They do a really good job of that stuff. And then you get into the nuts and bolts of how the game's played. But that kind of thing, I think, is really nice for making your own decisions about how you even want to participate in the thing. You may get your stuff, buy a few boxes of models, sit down and build them, pull out your little tiny paintbrush kit that you got, right? Your little starter paint set, and say, "Ooh, this is the only part I want to do." And that's
Hmm.
perfectly fine. They have competitions for that. It's a big deal. Anyway,
Yeah.
um I think that's it. I think that was a good one. I hope you guys learned something. Veterans, you've been briefed. Do your job. And new people, let us know what you think. I hope that you like and subscribe and comment. Let us know if this was helpful. And until next time, as always, don't forget to
A fanatical.